Beloved chosen one, stop and breathe. Heaven has paused your timeline for a reason. You didn't stumble on this message by accident. God scheduled this very encounter long before you ever knew you would need it. The atmosphere around you has been shifting, even if you haven't understood why. Every delay, every frustration, every unanswered question has been orchestrated to bring you right here, right now, before 9 p.m. tonight. You've felt it, haven't you? The quiet stirring in your spirit, the unease that something bigger than yourself is about to unfold. Heaven has been whispering while the world shouted for your attention. The distractions were loud because the divine call was close. This message is that call, and heaven says you must open before 9 p.m. That hour isn't random, it's sacred. A spiritual alignment awaits. And if you obey, the shift that follows will be irreversible. Every chosen one reaches a moment when destiny demands a decision. This is yours. For weeks, your spirit has known that something was coming. You've been seeing signs, numbers, dreams, words that seem to echo. That's how heaven confirms its intent. The Spirit of God has been preparing you quietly, setting you apart, removing what cannot go with you into the next season. Don't underestimate what this moment means. When heaven marks time, it's because something eternal is being written. You are not merely being invited, you are being summoned. Divine instruction always precedes divine release. And tonight the two will meet. You are being called not to react emotionally, but to respond spiritually. The struggles of this year did not come to break you. They came to reveal you. Every tear you've shed has watered the ground of your next miracle. Heaven has been watching, counting every sigh, every whispered prayer, every night you stayed awake asking, God, when and now heaven answers not tomorrow, not later, but before 9 p.m. The world may not understand why this date matters, but your spirit knows. Prophetic timing is heaven's handwriting upon human history. December 26th is not an ordinary day, it is an open gate. When the Spirit says open, it means readiness, surrender, and obedience. Something is scheduled for your life that will not wait forever. Beloved, take comfort in the eternal promise found in the sacred texts. The prophet Isaiah once declared a word that resonates through every generation. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. This is the word for you tonight. You've been weary, but renewal is coming. You've been crawling through days that felt endless, but heaven says you're about to soar. The command to open before 9 p.m. is not a burden, it's a doorway to renewal. God is not demanding something from you, He is delivering something to you. Your spirit has been under heavy pressure, but that pressure was prophecy in disguise. Heaven uses weight to awaken wings. Every unseen battle, every sleepless night, every tear that never reached human ears has been heard in heaven's courts. Strength is already rising within you, quiet but unstoppable. When you open before 9 p.m., the atmosphere will shift. You may not hear thunder or see lightning, but peace will flood like water through your soul. The presence of God moves gently yet powerfully, and you will recognize Him not by noise but by the calm that follows. The delay you feared was never denial. It was divine alignment. God withheld what you thought you wanted to prepare you for what He always planned. You are being elevated to a level where compromise cannot follow you. Heaven closes certain doors so you'll finally notice the one that opens tonight. Chosen one. This night marks the beginning of your spiritual restoration. Old wounds will lose their voice, past shame will lose its grip, and divine clarity will take its place. You will remember this night not as the end of struggle, But as the night faith woke up inside you again, so stand tall, lift your head. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. Heaven's timing might feel late to your flesh, but it's perfect in the spirit. There's a divine rhythm to your life, and it's leading you toward fulfillment. The Lord is inviting you into His rhythm tonight, into His peace, into His purpose. Chosen one, do not ignore this divine tug. The enemy would love nothing more than to make you delay, to convince you that it's just another moment. But heaven whispers, not this time. Tonight is set apart. The next door opens not through striving, but through stillness and faith. If this message resonates in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe so that you stay aligned with what heaven is releasing through this space. Type 77 in the comments below as your prophetic declaration that you are open, that you are ready, that you receive this word. Before the clock strikes 9 p.m., open your heart fully. Heaven has already written your name into tonight's miracle. Chosen one, you have walked through valleys few can understand. The weight you've carried in silence has been heavier than words could ever express. You've smiled through storms, prayed through pain, and endured the kind of loneliness that only those marked by heaven can know. There were nights when you looked at the ceiling, asking if God still remembered you, nights when even your own strength seemed to betray you. Yet through it all, you kept moving. You kept believing, even when your faith trembled like a flickering candle in the wind. Heaven saw every tear. Not one of them fell unnoticed. Angels were assigned to record your pain, not to remind you of suffering, but to testify later of how far you've come. The story of your endurance will one day be the proof of God's faithfulness. For though you were crushed, you were never destroyed. Though the weight was unbearable, grace bore it with you. The same grace that carried you through the valley is now preparing to lift you to the mountain. You see, being chosen is not glamorous, it is costly. Those who carry divine purpose often carry divine pressure. You have been set apart, not rejected. The loneliness you felt was heaven's way of pruning distractions. Every door that closed was a whisper saying, "That's not your path." Every rejection was divine redirection. You may not have seen it then, but looking back now, you'll realize the hand of God was always steering you. Even through the confusion, there were moments when your prayers seemed to bounce off the walls, when silence echoed louder than any answer. Yet heaven's silence was never absence. God wasn't ignoring you. He was building something in you that required silence to form. Faith is not forged in applause, it is forged in quiet rooms where no one sees your struggle. The endurance that makes you dangerous to darkness was born in those hidden seasons. Beloved, do you remember those days when you thought you couldn't keep going, but somehow you did? That somehow was the hand of God. His mercy carried you through valleys designed to break others. You are still standing because heaven refused to let you fall. That is proof enough that you are chosen. The pain that tried to bury you only planted you deeper into your purpose. The pressure that threatened to crush you actually produced oil, the anointing that will mark your next chapter. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms. Chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Every tear became a prayer. Every sigh became incense before the throne. You have been misunderstood by many, but known by God completely. Others may have seen weakness, but heaven saw warfare. The endurance you developed in pain has become armor. It's why certain attacks no longer shake you, because pain turned into power. The enemy hoped to silence your worship, but your worship only grew louder in the storm. There is something sacred about endurance. It refines your faith, stripping away every false dependency until only God remains. That's why your isolation hurt so much. It was the death of everything temporary. You were never being punished. You were being purified. What others called failure was heaven's hidden classroom. You were learning trust, patience, discernment. You were learning to move not by sight but by revelation. Now heaven whispers, you made it through the hardest part. The crushing season is ending. You have been refined by fire and found faithful. What's coming next is not another battle but a new assignment. The weight you once carried is about to become testimony. You will soon speak with authority about what others only read in books. You have lived your faith through fire, and now the light of that fire will guide others home. Beloved, every scar on your soul carries holy meaning. The enemy thought those wounds would disqualify you, but they have become proof that grace is real. God never wastes pain. What hurt you yesterday will heal someone tomorrow. That's the mystery of divine purpose. It turns brokenness into ministry, sorrow into strength, mourning into power. You may not see it yet, but the things that once brought you to your knees will soon bring you to your calling. You will no longer speak from theory but from experience. The very areas where you once bled will become the places from which you bless. Heaven is turning your ashes into oil, your tears into triumph. So breathe again, chosen one. The weight is lifting. The clouds that once covered your vision are parting, revealing the dawn of something beautiful. You have not been overlooked, you have been prepared. The years of hiddenness were never wasted. They were incubation for greatness. Do not despise your past, for it has been your preparation. The storms taught you what comfort could not. The pain revealed a power you didn't know you carried. You are not the same person you were before the suffering began. You have evolved, matured, and stepped closer to divine identity. Heaven is proud of your endurance. Now step lightly but boldly. You have been found faithful in darkness. Soon you will shine in light. What was heavy will now become holy. Your heart may still carry traces of sorrow, but heaven calls it sacred strength. The weight you bore was proof of your calling, and the one who called you has never once left your side. Chosen one. Lately, you've been sensing something, an invisible stirring that refuses to quiet down. It's not anxiety. It's not coincidence. It's heaven trying to get your attention. The stillness of your days has been filled with quiet signals, a dream that felt more vivid than usual, a verse that echoed louder than before, a thought that kept returning without explanation. You've brushed it off, but it keeps coming back. That's because God is speaking. You are entering a season where the signals of heaven will increase in clarity. The divine frequency is rising, and only those tuned in through faith will hear. What you feel as tension is actually transition. The Spirit is aligning you with divine timing, urging you not to miss what's unfolding. Every delay, every obstacle, even the strange sense of being out of place is heaven's way of saying, shift is here. There are moments when God doesn't send angels or prophets, He sends patterns. Numbers repeat, people reappear. Moments seem to loop. These are not coincidences, they are spiritual breadcrumbs leading you toward purpose. The natural world dismisses them as randomness, but those who walk in the Spirit know that heaven hides revelation in repetition. You've felt it, the nudge to pray at unexpected hours, the sudden chills during worship, the divine interruptions that pulled you away from plans that no longer served your spirit. These are the signals of heaven. They're not random. They are God whispering. Pay attention. He is drawing you closer, revealing that what is about to unfold will require sensitivity, not sight. As the prophet wrote in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 1, I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me. This is the posture of the chosen watchfulness. You are being called to stand guard over your destiny, to recognize divine whispers even in earthly noise. The reason you felt disconnected from the world lately is because heaven is fine-tuning your hearing. Your spirit is maturing, becoming capable of discerning between what sounds good and what is God. That's why certain friendships feel distant now. Why certain environments suddenly drain your energy. Heaven is recalibrating your atmosphere. When God wants to speak clearly, He reduces the volume of the world. There is a difference between waiting and watching. Waiting is passive, but watching is prophetic. You are not waiting for life to change. You are watching heaven move. The same spirit that hovered over the waters in Genesis is now hovering over your life, preparing to bring form to what was formless. Heaven says prepare for confirmation. You will soon see a sign so clear it will remove every doubt you've wrestled with. It will not be subtle, it will be undeniable. When it comes, your spirit will recognize it instantly. You won't need to ask for another sign because heaven always confirms its word to those who listen. Chosen one, this is why your discernment has been sharpening. The more God speaks, the more the enemy tries to create noise. He tries to mimic heaven's tone to confuse you. That's why stillness has become your secret weapon. When you still your soul, deception loses its grip. You will know the difference between a distraction and a divine direction by the peace that follows it. The signals of heaven are not always dramatic. Sometimes they're disguised in ordinary things, a stranger's words, a song lyric, a sunrise that arrives with a strange sense of clarity. God has always spoken through creation, and He still does. The world itself is a canvas for divine messages, painted with symbols for those who have eyes to see. You've been praying for clarity, and heaven answers not with paragraphs, but with patterns. Stop waiting for a booming voice and start recognizing the small, sacred signals. Every coincidence that feels divine probably is. Heaven does not waste motion. Every repetition is revelation in disguise. So listen, chosen one. Listen deeper. You are being drawn into a conversation that began before you were born. Heaven is not trying to overwhelm you, it is trying to awaken you. When you start to see beyond the obvious, you will walk in authority others cannot comprehend. You will no longer chase signs, they will follow you. This is your call to awareness. Lift your spiritual eyes. The signals are not coming, they are already here. Heaven is waiting for recognition, and once you recognize it, alignment will accelerate. Now pause right here. If your heart resonates with this, respond as an act of recognition. Type I see it. That simple declaration is more than words, it's agreement. When you type it, you are acknowledging heaven's signals. You are saying, I am awake, aware, and ready. In that act, you mark yourself as one who listens. You shift from seeker to receiver, from watcher to participant. When heaven finds a listener, it releases a message. And tonight, that message is clear. The signs around you are not random, they are revelation. Pay attention. Heaven is speaking louder than ever. Chosen one, the hour draws near. Heaven's timing is never arbitrary, and the mention of 9 p.m. is not symbolic, it is sacred. You stand at a divine threshold, where obedience becomes the bridge between what was promised and what will manifest. The Spirit has been whispering, preparing your heart for this exact hour, because certain gates open only through timely surrender. Every major move of God throughout Scripture had a moment of divine appointment. Noah had to enter the ark before the rain began. Moses had to strike the sea when the command was given. Joshua had to march around Jericho on the appointed day. Timing is not suggestion, it is instruction. And tonight, your moment of instruction has arrived. You may have wondered why this message emphasizes the time. Why 9 p.m.? Because heaven operates in patterns of precision. Divine moments are layered with meaning. In the spirit, 9 p.m. represents closure and completion, an hour when old battles lose their power and new seasons begin to take shape. It is when day meets night, symbolizing transition and transformation. For the chosen, it is the hour when obedience decides destiny. Every time God shifts his people, he tests their response to timing. Delay often disguises itself as caution, yet heaven sees it as hesitation. God isn't asking for perfection, he is asking for readiness. To obey when the instruction comes, not after convenience permits it, that is the test of the chosen. You have spent years preparing for what heaven is now releasing. The breaking, the pruning, the long waiting, they were never punishment. They were preparation for precise obedience. You learn to discern the difference between impulse and instruction, between noise and divine command. That's why this moment feels different. You can sense heaven's seriousness in the air. The spiritual atmosphere is charged, not with fear but with holy urgency. There is power in responding at the right time. In the story of the 10 virgins, 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. The wise ones had oil ready when the bridegroom arrived. The foolish ones delayed and missed the door. That door is more than an image, it is a spiritual principle. Heaven's opportunities open and close on obedience. To be chosen means to be prepared when others are distracted. You are being invited into the kind of obedience that doesn't wait for confirmation because faith itself is confirmation. The call to open before 9 p.m. is not a test of time, but a test of trust. Can you move when heaven speaks? Even if you don't yet understand the full picture, can you say yes before you see? That is the posture of the chosen. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Those words are not spoken in pressure but in promise. Obedience is proof of love, not obligation. To act when heaven speaks is to align your heart with divine rhythm. Every time you obey, even in small things, heaven records your faith as fragrance before the throne. You've been asking for acceleration, and heaven is answering with instruction. Divine speed does not come through striving, it comes through alignment. When you align with heaven's timing, everything that seemed delayed begins to move. The barriers that resisted you will recognize your obedience and bow. What took years can shift in moments when God says, "Now." The 9 p.m. threshold represents more than an hour. It represents the end of hesitation. Tonight, heaven separates the hearers from the responders. The called will listen, but the chosen will move. This is not about fear. It is about faith. Heaven always releases breakthrough through those who obey without delay. Beloved, do not look at this as a countdown, but as a calling up. The time between now and 9 p.m. is sacred space. It is your moment of consecration, a quiet, invisible preparation where heaven searches hearts. God is not measuring your perfection, he is weighing your readiness. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to open. Something shifts when obedience meets divine timing. Peace replaces confusion. Clarity replaces hesitation. You suddenly see why the waiting mattered, why the pruning was necessary, why certain paths had to close. Heaven reveals that it was never about delay, it was always about synchronization. When the hour comes, and you've chosen to open as heaven instructed, you will feel the atmosphere change. You will sense weight leaving your shoulders. You may not see fireworks or hear thunder, but you'll know. The presence of God moves in quiet authority, confirming obedience with peace. Chosen one. This moment is the hinge between what was and what will be. Treat it with reverence. Don't rush through it. Let the Spirit minister to you in silence. There are mysteries heaven only reveals to those who honor timing. Between now and that appointed hour, rest, reflect, and ready yourself. The one who responds when heaven calls never walks away empty-handed. Remember, this obedience is not about rules, it's about relationship. God doesn't need your perfection, He desires your participation. When you open before 9 p.m., you are not performing for heaven, you are partnering with it. This is your appointed hour. Step into it with faith, not fear. The door is already turning on its hinges. Heaven is waiting not to test you, but to bless you. Chosen one, when the noise of the world fades and only the whisper of your heart remains. That is often the voice of God calling you back to stillness. You've been walking through a season that demanded so much strength, yet through it all, you kept believing. You've prayed even when your lips trembled, you've sown even when your hands were empty, and heaven saw it all. Tonight, as the 9 p.m. threshold draws closer, heaven isn't just looking at your actions, it's listening to your heart, your willingness, your faith. Your quiet yes in secret moments have become the fragrance that reaches heaven's throne. Sometimes the loudest act of worship is the one nobody hears. The still voice of the Spirit says, "Do not underestimate what your obedience has set in motion. You may not see the fruit yet, but the seeds are already alive beneath the soil. Just as a seed must break before it blooms, so must your faith stretch before it shines. The pressure you've felt lately is not punishment, it's germination. Heaven is breaking open what you thought was buried, turning loss into life, pain into purpose. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Verse 12, "The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of His bounty, to send rain on your land in season and to bless all the work of your hands." That is your promise. The same hands that once trembled in weariness are now blessed to build, to bless, to bring forth beauty. But listen, every harvest requires participation. The rain may come from heaven, but the ground must still be tended. Just as you've opened your heart to receive this word, heaven invites you to open your hands, to plant into the very ground that feeds your spirit. This space, this voice, these words, they are not random echoes. They are streams of living water designed to refresh your soul. And when streams bless you, it's holy to pour a little water back into them, to keep the flow alive for others who are still wandering thirsty. So if this message has met you in your desert, if these words have found you in a storm, take a moment to nurture the flow, like, not out of habit, but as a small ripple of agreement, an echo that says, "I receive this." Share, not for numbers, but because someone else is still in the valley you've just crossed, waiting for the light that reached you. And subscribe, not as a click, but as a covenant to stay aligned with the stream that nourishes your spirit again and again. And if the Spirit stirs you deeper, if gratitude overflows and you feel led, consider sowing a seed of support. An offering not out of obligation, but as an act of gratitude. Every message you help sustain becomes a light that reaches someone else lost in darkness. Every small gift becomes a piece of the bridge that heaven uses to reach another chosen one. When you give, you're not fueling a platform, you're fueling purpose. Think of it like a candle lighting another. The first flame doesn't grow dim, it multiplies light. That's what partnership with purpose looks like. The more light we share, the less darkness remains. You see, giving, whether it's your time, your prayer, or your resources, isn't about loss. It's about legacy. You're building something unseen yet eternal. Every act of generosity becomes a brick in a divine structure that outlives you. Heaven always remembers those who build with open hands and humble hearts. You've been the receiver for so long. Now heaven invites you to become a vessel. The same stream that refreshes you can flow through you. The same word that strengthened you can reach another soul through your act of kindness. This is how heaven multiplies its message through willing hearts. Chosen one, don't think your participation is small. The ripple of one obedient heart can stir oceans. When you like, share, subscribe, or give, you're not merely engaging, you're partnering with heaven's plan. You're saying, "Use me, Lord, to carry light into places I'll never see." Let your faith leave fingerprints on this moment. Let your gratitude be a seed. And remember, generosity is not measured by amount but by alignment. God doesn't bless based on what you give, He blesses based on what you release. Tonight, as the final hours of this divine countdown move closer, may your obedience, your gratitude, and your heart all flow together as a living offering. The heavens are opening above you. Rain is already gathering, and soon, your land, your purpose, your vision, your life will bloom in ways that make even the waiting worth it. So breathe deeply. You are part of something holy. You are not merely hearing this message, you are helping it live. And heaven remembers every heart that helps the message continue. Chosen one, there are moments in life when heaven asks for a sign of faith, not for God's sake, but for yours. Not because He needs proof of your belief, but because you need a moment of declaration, something visible that seals the invisible covenant forming in your spirit. Tonight is one of those moments. You have felt the shift within you lately, the weight of hesitation giving way to a quiet readiness. Your spirit knows something is being unlocked. Heaven is not silent. It's speaking in symbols, preparing you for manifestation. The door that has stayed closed is not locked. It's waiting for your obedience to turn the handle. This message comes like a key. The instruction may seem small, but every divine unlock begins with a small act of faith. Heaven works through obedience, not effort. When you respond, the spiritual realm moves to align your reality with God's promise. You are not here just to listen. You are here to activate. The Spirit impressed upon me a prophetic code 888, a number of new beginnings. Resurrection and overflow. 8 represents renewal, but 3 8s in alignment speak of multiplied grace, divine restoration in every area. Heaven whispers, what was lost will live again. What was delayed will accelerate. What was closed will open. This is not superstition, it is symbolism. The language of heaven is often numerical, woven through patterns and repetition. Just as rainbows are promises in color, numbers can be promises in sequence. When you see 888, you are witnessing heaven's reminder that your story is not over, it's turning. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. These words are your anchor tonight. They are not gentle suggestions, they are divine directives. You cannot reason your way into breakthrough, you must trust your way into it. Trust requires release. You cannot hold on to control and receive divine flow at the same time. One of heaven's greatest tests is this: can you let go before you see results? Faith doesn't wait for evidence, it becomes the evidence. That's why tonight, you are invited to respond not with logic, but with faith. There's a weight on this word because heaven is moving quickly. Delays are dissolving. The season that once felt like wilderness is becoming your watering place. You have been faithful in private, and now heaven is about to honor you in public. This isn't wishful thinking, it's divine order. What you do next determines how fast the doors open. Chosen one, remember this truth: obedience always precedes overflow. You've prayed for provision, healing, and restoration, but heaven often waits for a prophetic act before releasing it. In the Old Testament, when the people of God needed breakthrough, they often performed symbolic acts that matched their faith-lifting staffs, stepping into waters, marching around walls. Each act was simple, but every result was supernatural. Tonight, you are being called to make a declaration of faith. It's not about noise, it's about knowing. Heaven moves through agreement, and your agreement carries power. If this word resonates in your spirit, type 8 out of the 8 in the comments below. Let it be your prophetic declaration that you are stepping into a season of renewal, resurrection, and divine completion. When you write it, don't just casually type it as an act of faith, as if you were engraving it into the heavens. By doing so, you are saying, I trust God's timing, I trust His process. I receive new beginnings. You are releasing the old and welcoming the fresh breath of heaven. This simple act will mark the moment when faith became visible, when belief took form. Heaven does not measure the size of your act, it measures the sincerity of your heart. Every comment of 888 will not just be data, it will be declaration. Angels respond to obedience. Faith creates movement in realms unseen. When you align with heaven's rhythm, miracles don't chase you, you collide with them. Chosen one, remember what the Spirit is saying tonight. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. The delays that frustrated you were divine buffers, protecting you from premature release. Heaven needed you whole before it made you visible. That's why the timing feels exact. It is. You've been through pruning so that you could bloom in purity. The next phase of your life begins not when you see change, but when you agree with it. 888 is not just a number, it's a spiritual key. It symbolizes the 8th day, the day beyond completion, the day when something entirely new is born. This is your 8th day season. Every time you respond in faith, you shift something in the unseen. Every act of agreement builds momentum in the spirit. You may not feel it instantly, but heaven records it. So take a deep breath. The gates of renewal are already open. Heaven isn't asking for your effort, it's asking for your echo. When you type 888, you're saying, I align, I believe, I am ready. Let this moment mark the turning of your tide. You have been faithful through the breaking, now comes the blooming. The drought is ending, the rain is near. Chosen one, every delay that once tormented you has now come under divine review. The waiting season, long and painful as it was never wasted. Heaven was not ignoring your prayers, it was aligning your destiny. You were not standing still. You were being positioned. Every step, every pause, every locked door has been serving something greater than your understanding. You have been walking through what I call the invisible war, the place between prophecy and fulfillment. It is where faith is refined and purpose is proven. Heaven often allows delays not to deny you, but to detox you from everything that cannot go with you into your next season. The people, the patterns. Even the old versions of you that once served a purpose had to fade, so that the new can emerge. The Spirit of God has been fighting battles on your behalf that you never saw. While you were restless, heaven was rearranging. There were plots formed against your peace that never reached you because divine hands blocked them. You didn't fail. You were preserved. You didn't miss your turn. Heaven slowed your steps to keep you safe. Every delay has been a disguised deliverance. The war between delay and destiny is real, and you have felt its weight. It manifests as confusion, fatigue, and moments when you almost convinced yourself that maybe you misheard God. But heaven's silence has always had a sound faith sharpening itself in the dark. You thought you were waiting for breakthrough. Breakthrough was waiting for your maturity. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. That promise was not just written for a nation, it was whispered for every soul that feels forgotten in the waiting. It is your confirmation that delay cannot destroy destiny. God's plans are not canceled by your waiting. They are completed in it. The seed doesn't bloom the day it's planted. The soil covers it. The dark hides it. But inside, life is forming. The waiting room of heaven feels like silence, but it's actually sacred construction. You are being rebuilt to hold the weight of what's coming next. The war between delay and destiny always reaches its climax before breakthrough. It's the enemy's last attempt to convince you that God's promises expired. But remember what God starts. He finishes. He has not forgotten you. Heaven has been counting every day, measuring every tear, preparing every detail. You are closer than you think. You may not see progress yet, but look deeper. Something has shifted in your spirit. You are calmer, wiser, more grounded. What used to break you no longer has power. That's evidence that the war is turning. Heaven has been strengthening your inner man while silencing your outer noise. The confusion you felt was not defeat, it was transformation. Chosen one. Understand this delay is often divine choreography. The steps may seem out of rhythm, but heaven dances to a tempo you cannot hear yet. There were seasons where God hid you not to punish you, but to protect your purity. You were being prepared for rooms where character will matter more than charisma. The delay was heaven's way of ensuring your foundation could carry the glory that's coming. Every detour, every redirection, even the losses that broke your heart, were permitted by heaven to reveal what cannot be shaken. If you had received everything when you wanted it, pride might have claimed the credit. Now, when it comes, you'll know it was all grace. You have fought silently, worshipped when weary, and chosen peace when provoked. That is warfare on a heavenly level. The enemy never expected you to survive this long. But here you are, still believing, still standing. That is proof of divine preservation. And now, heaven declares the war is ending. The time of wrestling with delay is closing, and the season of divine release is dawning. You will feel the pace of your life change, not through striving, but through supernatural alignment. Doors that were once shut will open effortlessly because you now carry the right frequency. Heaven responds to maturity, not emotion. You have grown into the very version of yourself that your promise requires. Beloved, be at peace. The waiting has accomplished its purpose. The destiny you feared would pass you by has been circling the runway, waiting for permission to land. Heaven just cleared the skies. Do not look back in regret over the years that seemed lost. God redeems time. Every delay, when surrendered, becomes divine investment. The moments you thought were wasted are being folded into your testimony. Soon, you will realize why it had to happen this way. The pieces that once confused you will click into place, and you will thank God for every pause you once cursed. What felt like warfare was actually wisdom. What looked like loss was actually preservation. So rest tonight, chosen one. The war between delay and destiny is over. You have passed the test that many never endure. Heaven is now opening the path for the promise to arrive in full. The waiting was not a wall, it was a womb, and something divine is about to be born. Chosen one. When the signs begin to intensify, it is not because heaven is punishing you, it is because revelation is near. The closer you draw to fulfillment, the louder the signals become. The atmosphere around your life shifts. Patterns repeat, dreams deepen, and the same spiritual echoes appear again and again. What you call strange coincidence is actually divine language. Heaven has always spoken in patterns, using repetition as confirmation. You've noticed it, haven't you? A verse appearing more than once. A word that keeps following you from song to sermon to conversation. Certain numbers that surface wherever you turn. These are not fragments of imagination. They are heaven's way of calling your spirit to attention. When something keeps returning to your awareness, it's not haunting you, it's highlighting your next instruction. When the signs intensify, discernment becomes your greatest ally. Not every repetition is holy, but when peace accompanies a pattern, you can be sure heaven is speaking. The Spirit of God never communicates confusion. His guidance might stretch you, but it will always carry stillness within it. That stillness is proof of divine origin. The closer your purpose approaches manifestation, the more spiritual resistance tries to mimic the signal. The enemy cannot create, but he can counterfeit. He takes what God uses for guidance and attempts to twist it into distraction. That's why spiritual maturity is vital in seasons like this. You must learn not only to see, but to discern. Beloved, this is not the time to panic, it's the time to perceive. What you feel as spiritual pressure is often heaven compressing time, accelerating your preparation so that you can stand in places once too heavy for you. When the signs multiply, it's because heaven is narrowing the distance between prophecy and performance. In these moments, your dreams may become more vivid. You might wake in the night with phrases echoing in your mind, or feel drawn to pray without knowing why. Follow that prompting. Heaven rarely announces preparation, it simply begins it. You are being invited into a deeper conversation, one that doesn't always require words, but always demands awareness, as was spoken in the book of Acts. Chapter 2, verse 17. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my Spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions, your old men will dream dreams. This is not ancient poetry, it is a present reality. You are living in those days, and the same Spirit that inspired those words is now stirring in your life. Heaven's signs are not random flashes of curiosity, they are previews of coming glory. The dreams that feel too vivid to ignore are not accidents, they are spiritual invitations. When you wake with that image lingering, write it down. Revelation often comes in fragments that later form full sentences. Each piece matters. Sometimes heaven will use repetition to test readiness. When a word, vision, or theme keeps returning, it's because the Spirit is waiting for your response. God does not waste His voice on those unwilling to listen. If you're hearing Him again, it's because He trusts you again. The recurrence of divine communication is proof that grace is still pursuing you. The signs also increase because your capacity has expanded. When you were younger in faith, heaven spoke softly. Now it speaks boldly. The same God who whispered in your weakness now declares in your maturity. You have grown into a vessel that can carry more clarity, more responsibility, more revelation. The intensity is not meant to overwhelm, it's meant to prepare. And yes, there will be moments when the signs seem confusing. There will be nights when you question whether it's truly God or your imagination. In those moments, Remember, peace confirms what pressure cannot. When a sign carries peace, even if it stretches your comfort, it comes from God. When it carries fear, confusion, or self-exaltation, it does not. Chosen one. Heaven is shaping your awareness into a prophetic instrument. You are learning the rhythm of divine communication, not by chance, but by calling. You will soon realize that what others call coincidence, you call confirmation. You are stepping into a prophetic flow where your sensitivity becomes strength. Do not rush to interpret every sign. Some are meant to be recorded, not resolved. Revelation often ripens over time. Let the Spirit of God weave meaning at the right moment. Patience in interpretation is proof of trust. In the days ahead, you will notice an increase of supernatural timing arriving somewhere by accident, only to find purpose waiting. You will speak words unknowingly that confirm prayers others have whispered in secret. You will begin to operate in divine sync, where heaven uses your steps as sentences. Do not fear when the signs intensify. It is not chaos, it is confirmation. Heaven amplifies signals to strengthen faith. You are not losing control, you are gaining awareness. The same hand that paints the sky in order each dawn is painting your path with patterns of purpose. So rest, chosen one. You are not being overwhelmed, you are being awakened. What seems like mystery today will soon make sense. The repetition, the symbols, the inner stirrings, they are heaven's handwriting on the walls of your heart. The signs are not random, they are relationship. The Creator is communicating. Chosen one. Every soul that walks in divine purpose eventually reaches a point called the breaking. It's the sacred threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. You can feel it now, a tightening, a tension, a strange blend of exhaustion and expectancy. It's not failure, it's transformation. The breaking does not destroy the vessel, it reshapes it. You've been carrying spiritual weight that few could bear, the dreams that won't die, the prayers that haven't yet been answered, the feeling of standing between two worlds, too awakened for the past, not yet walking in the promise. Heaven knows that space well. It's the cocoon between calling and clarity, and every chosen one must pass through it. The breaking feels like loss because the familiar begins to crumble. Old patterns stop working. Familiar comfort loses flavor. You find yourself weeping for no reason, sensing that something within you is ending, though nothing outside has changed. This is heaven's refinement. God is not punishing you, He is pulling you apart to rebuild you stronger, purer, sharper for what comes next. You might be tempted to think you've fallen behind, but you haven't. Heaven's construction always looks like chaos halfway through. You are not being buried, you are being built. What feels like collapse is actually calibration. The cracks you see forming in your life are not evidence of God's absence. They are openings for His glory to enter. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. You, chosen one, are that jar. Heaven is breaking what once contained you so that what's inside His power can finally flow freely. Breaking precedes birthing. Before resurrection came the cross, before Moses split the sea. His courage had to split fear. Before David wore a crown, he endured the crushing of caves. And before you step into your next season, the old self must shatter so the true self can emerge. Heaven always breaks before it builds. There is holiness in the breaking. Pain becomes a translator, teaching you what sermons could never express. Every tear becomes a seed, every ache a prophecy. The very pressure that feels unbearable is birthing the version of you that will carry greater anointing. You are not falling apart, you are falling into form. Sometimes the breaking happens quietly through fatigue, disappointment, silence. Sometimes it comes suddenly through a loss, a betrayal, an unexpected turn. But no matter how it arrives, its purpose is the same: to bring you to surrender. Heaven cannot fill what pride keeps full. The breaking is mercy disguised as mess. And right here, in this moment of sacred pressure, heaven speaks: do not resist what is meant to release you. Let go of trying to control what God is reshaping. Let the pieces fall, because heaven is reassembling them differently. The version of you emerging from this will carry peace instead of panic, focus instead of fear, conviction instead of confusion. Chosen one, you are not the only one being broken. Creation itself groans with you. The divine process unfolds across all of heaven's design. The seed breaks before it sprouts. The dawn cracks before it shines. The cocoon tears before it releases the wings. Breaking is proof of becoming. There will be a moment when what once pained you will begin to make sense. You will look back and see that heaven never abandoned you in the fracture. It was holding you together where no eye could see. Grace was the glue when logic failed. The evidence of God's nearness was not the absence of pain, but your endurance through it. So now, as your spirit begins to yield, heaven calls for a declaration. When you speak faith in the middle of breaking, you shift atmospheres. Your words become warfare. Your confession becomes creation. If this word reaches the center of your spirit, type "I will rise." Write it not as a wish, but as a prophecy over yourself. When you declare it, you are agreeing with heaven's agenda for your life. You are telling every shadow, every doubt, every fear, "I may be broken, but I am becoming." This is not just a comment, it's a covenant. It marks the moment your pain turned into power. When you write "I will rise," you give heaven permission to transform your fracture into fuel. You shift from mourning to movement, from ashes to authority. The breaking is not your ending. Beloved, it is your unveiling. Heaven never crushes what it doesn't plan to crown. You are standing on sacred ground, mid-process, mid-promise, mid-prophetic fulfillment. Hold still. Let grace finish its work. Soon, the cracks will gleam with glory. The same hands that broke you will heal you, and the same voice that called you will crown you. You will rise, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. Chosen one. Something sacred happens when light and shadow finally separate. When heaven decides that the night has lingered long enough, dawn begins to whisper its arrival. You are living in that exact hour where the light in you confronts the last trace of darkness that tried to cling to your story. The separation is never gentle, but it is glorious. Every chosen vessel must walk through the place where identity is clarified. You've spent months, maybe years, carrying fragments of old seasons, people who drained your spirit, habits that once felt harmless, thoughts that whispered you were not enough. But when divine light enters, it demands clarity. The same way morning pushes the fog away, heaven is now pushing confusion out of your atmosphere. Light exposes, but it also heals. Shadows only linger where light is absent. The things that once haunted you, the guilt, the regret, the hidden grief, are losing their grip because the light has found you. This isn't punishment, it's purification. Heaven is washing your story with brightness. The apostle wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 14, "What fellowship can light have with darkness?" That verse is more than instruction, it is invitation. God isn't just calling you to abandon darkness, He's inviting you to dwell fully in light, to live in such purity of heart that no shadow can manipulate your peace again. You are being redefined. The separation of light and shadow inside you is creating room for clarity, and clarity births calling. It's why the world has felt quieter lately. Heaven has dimmed unnecessary noise so you can hear what truly matters. Don't be surprised if some voices fade or some paths close. It's not rejection, it's realignment. God is simplifying your surroundings so that your purpose can stand without interference. Imagine your life as a garden at dawn, the soil still damp with night, the air trembling between darkness and sunrise. That's where you are now, one breath away from brilliance. The weeds of old thoughts are being uprooted, and the seeds of new beginnings are breaking through. Light and shadow cannot coexist forever. One must yield to the other. Tonight, darkness yields. This message, this very space, is a lamp in that garden, a gentle flame guiding you toward the path heaven paved. If these words have brought clarity, comfort, or courage to your soul, pause for a moment and reflect. The way we keep the flame burning is by breathing together through gratitude, through connection, through shared purpose. If your heart has been stirred, like this message as a small echo of light. It's not just a click, it's a candle lit in return, a symbol that the flame reached you. Share it, not for visibility but for victory. Somewhere out there is another soul still sitting in shadow, waiting for the same dawn that found you. Your share may be the sunrise they've been praying for. And if your spirit feels at home in this stream of words, subscribe. Think of it not as following a page, but as joining a procession of pilgrims walking toward the same light. Together, we create a rhythm of faith that keeps heaven's sound alive on earth. Lastly, if gratitude overflows and you feel led, consider donating not as obligation but as worship. Every offering becomes oil for the flame, allowing this light to reach further, burn longer, and touch lives that may never meet yours. You're not funding a message, you're fueling a movement. Each drop of generosity becomes another spark that drives back darkness. Picture it like this: a lighthouse on the edge of the sea. One light alone can't guide every lost ship, but when many hearts give, the light grows stronger, brighter, unmissable. That's what your support does. It helps this beacon reach beyond your horizon, to souls who still can't see the shore. You have walked through your night faithfully, and now heaven entrusts you with a new task: to become a carrier of dawn. The separation of light and shadow wasn't just about cleansing you, it was about commissioning you. You are not leaving the darkness merely to live in light. You are leaving it to become light. So as you go forward, walk brightly. Every conversation, every act of kindness, every seed of generosity is a sunbeam heaven can use. The more you shine, the more darkness retreats, not only in your life, but in the world around you. Chosen one, you are proof that darkness doesn't win. You are the evidence that grace glows through cracks, that light finds even the smallest openings. The shadow season is over. Step into the brilliance of who you were always meant to be and let your light multiply. Chosen one. There are moments when heaven opens its records and reveals the things written about you before your first breath. These divine blueprints, the scrolls of destiny, hold the truth of who you are beyond all doubt and all fear. Tonight, heaven invites you to remember that your existence was not an accident. You were inscribed on the scroll of eternity long before time began. You have always felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing deep within that you were different. Even when others misunderstood you, even when you tried to fit in, there was always something that wouldn't let you blend into the background. That difference was not rebellion, it was revelation. You carry an assignment that requires distinction. Heaven cannot use replicas, it sends originals. The scroll of destiny written over your life contains every divine appointment, every promise, every battle, and every victory assigned to your name. When you were born, the world gained a page in heaven's story. You may have stumbled, you may have strayed, but nothing has erased what was written. Grace doesn't rewrite, it restores. Even your mistakes have been woven into meaning. The ink of mercy turns your errors into emphasis, shaping wisdom from wounds. What once felt like detour now glows with direction. For every broken line in your story has become the proof that grace still writes in perfect rhythm. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, Psalm 2. Verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Those words were not meant only for Jeremiah, they echo through the generations, finding every soul who carries divine purpose. They find you now. You were known before you were visible. Before your first cry reached the air, your name was already familiar in heaven's courts. God did not design you on the day of your birth. He revealed you. You are the manifestation of divine imagination. Every gift you carry, every struggle you've endured, every door that opened or closed, they all serve the story heaven authored. There were seasons you thought you had lost your purpose, but the truth is, purpose can never be lost. It can only be ignored, like a scroll sealed for an appointed time. Your destiny waited for the moment your spirit matured enough to handle it. And now, that time has come. Heaven is unrolling the pages again, showing you glimpses of what's to come. That's why you've been feeling restless. It's not confusion, it's calling. The old dreams that you thought had died are being stirred again because the season they belong to is arriving. You're not chasing something new. You're remembering something ancient. Destiny is never discovered, it's recalled. Heaven is gentle in how it reminds you. A word in a song, a sudden vision, a memory that won't let go, all are pieces of the scroll being revealed. When you feel those holy interruptions, don't dismiss them as random. They are divine nudges, urging you to return to alignment with what was written about you. Beloved, you have survived too much to doubt your purpose now. The battles you faced were never about destruction. They were about confirmation. Only the chosen attract that level of warfare. The enemy doesn't fight random souls. He fights the ones carrying revelation. Your struggles were evidence of assignment. There's a quiet majesty in knowing that your life is part of something larger. The same God who wrote galaxies into existence wrote your name in the same ink of intention. When you feel insignificant, remember that the God who crafted mountains also thought the world needed one of you. You've been wondering when the vision will take shape. Heaven whispers when you start to believe it again. The scroll has never been locked. It has simply waited for your faith to turn the next page. Every act of surrender, every choice toward obedience opens another paragraph of destiny. Chosen one, destiny is not a finish line. It's a rhythm. You are meant to walk in it daily, not reach it someday. Every conversation guided by grace, every moment lived in awareness, is a fulfillment of what was written. Don't look for one grand event to prove purpose. Purpose proves itself in the quiet consistency of faith. Even now, angels stand over the scroll of your life, guarding what God has written. They know that no curse, no failure, no human opinion can erase divine ink. Heaven doesn't panic over detours because it writes in circles of grace, always bringing you back to alignment. In the days ahead, your awareness of calling will grow clearer. Ideas will come uninvited but perfectly timed. Encounters will carry weight beyond coincidence. Each moment will feel scripted because it is. You're stepping into the section of your story where heaven and earth finally synchronize. Chosen one, do not fear what's next. The scroll never ends in despair, it always concludes in glory. Every chapter of sorrow is followed by one of strength. Every page of loss eventually bleeds into a paragraph of restoration. So walk forward with peace. What heaven has written, no man can erase. You are living text, breathing prophecy, divine ink made flesh. The author has not finished writing. The story continues and the next line begins with you. Chosen one. Heaven has a rhythm for everything, beginnings, endings, and the sacred space in between. You are standing now at a divine intersection where completion meets renewal. What was once a cycle of waiting is closing, and something new is being born from its ashes. Heaven calls this moment your turning point, the place where you finally see why the delay had to last this long. There is a number heaven has been stirring in my spirit for this hour. 555, a prophetic symbol of divine change. Grace multiplied and transformation completed. 5 represents grace, and when it appears in triple form, it means grace has covered your past. Grace is surrounding your present, and grace is preparing your future. The repetition is heaven's way of saying the cycle is over, and the shift is now. You can feel it already, can't you? The subtle but unmistakable pull toward newness. You find yourself uninterested in old conversations, detached from places that once defined you. Heaven is shedding what no longer fits. That's not confusion. It's completion. The old chapter can no longer hold the size of your growth. What once felt familiar now feels foreign because your spirit has outgrown its surroundings. The Apostle Paul declared in the book of Philippians chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." These words are not simply reassurance, they are revelation. God finishes what He starts. The same hands that shaped your beginning are now sculpting your conclusion, and He will not stop until your life reflects His original vision. Completion in heaven rarely looks like you expect. Sometimes it feels like doors closing, relationships ending, or chapters dissolving. But endings are not punishment, they are preservation. God removes what no longer aligns with your next assignment. You can mourn what's leaving, but you must not chase it. When heaven closes something, it's because completion has been achieved. The prophetic number 545 marks a season of divine replacement. Everything that leaves will make room for something better. Every no you've received lately has been heaven's way of saying, wait for the right yes. The wrong opportunities are falling away because the right one is finally approaching. Grace doesn't just cover, it recalibrates. Chosen one. This shift will not require striving, it will require surrender. You are stepping into a rhythm of effortless alignment. Heaven is moving you like a river guides a boat, subtly, steadily, purposefully. When you stop resisting, you begin to float, and once you float, you flow. The grace of 555 is that it carries you where effort cannot. If you've been restless, uncertain, or weary, know this: the turbulence you feel is simply the sound of your old season collapsing under the weight of your new. The spiritual winds are changing direction, and the current now moves in your favor. You are not being pushed away, you are being pulled forward. This is your confirmation that what was once stagnant will now move. Plans that felt blocked will open. Opportunities that felt distant will draw near, and clarity will replace confusion. The divine hand that wrote your beginning is now turning the page with precision. You will soon look back and realize that this date, this very moment, was a hinge in time. The shift will not happen by accident. It will happen by alignment. Heaven moves in patterns, And when the triple grace of 555 appears, it means acceleration is activated. Chosen one. Pause for a moment and let this truth sink deep. You are stepping into a divine completion that no human effort could achieve. Heaven has perfected what you once worried about. The door you thought was permanently sealed will open easily, and what was once delayed will now arrive on time. If this word resonates within you, if something in your spirit recognizes the sound of change, then act as a witness to heaven's message. Type 505 in the comments below. Let it be your prophetic signature, your written agreement that grace is governing your transition. When you write it, you're not just acknowledging change, you're activating it. You're saying, I align with divine timing. I step into my next season covered in grace. This small act of faith will echo louder than you imagine. It is a statement to heaven, to yourself, and to every shadow that tried to delay you. The cycle is complete. Grace reigns here. Chosen one, you have reached the end of wandering. You have crossed from endurance into emergence. What began in tears will end in triumph. Heaven's seal of 555 rests upon your journey, confirming that you lack nothing and that everything meant for you is already moving into place. Let peace settle in your heart. The grace that brought you this far will carry you farther still. This is your moment of divine completion. Step into it fully. Chosen one, long before the battle around you began, heaven saw the war within you. Not the visible struggles that others might notice, but the quiet wars fought behind your eyes, the tug of faith and fear, the clash between peace and panic, the storm that speaks in thoughts louder than thunder. The battlefield of the mind is where destiny is decided, long before swords are drawn or victories declared. This war is subtle. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It begins as a thought, a doubt, a single seed that questions whether you are truly who God says you are. The enemy doesn't need to destroy your faith outright. He only needs to distort your focus. Because once the mind bows to confusion, the spirit follows. That's why your greatest weapon isn't louder prayer, it's quieter trust. You've felt the pull of this war many times. One day you wake full of conviction. The next you sink under waves of uncertainty. One moment you believe God can move mountains. The next you wonder if He even hears you. This fluctuation doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Even prophets have wrestled with perception. Elijah called down fire one day and asked to die the next. The battlefield spares no one, not even the anointed. But you must know this truth: the battle in your mind is not proof of distance from God. It's proof of proximity to purpose. The closer you move toward divine fulfillment, the louder the opposition becomes. Darkness only shouts at those who are about to step into light. Your very warfare is evidence of impending breakthrough. The Word of God declares in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. This is not poetry, it's strategy. The scripture doesn't say, ignore your thoughts. It says, take them captive. That means you have authority. You are not a prisoner to your mind. Your mind is meant to serve your spirit. When destructive thoughts rise, voices that tell you you're unworthy, unseen, unloved, stop and speak truth. You are chosen, sealed, and set apart. The moment you bring a lie into the light of God's word, it loses its power. Lies live in darkness. Revelation is their ruin. Heaven is teaching you to think differently. You've been praying for new circumstances, but God is giving you a new mindset first. Because if he changed your environment before changing your perspective, the same fears would follow you into new territory. That's why transformation always begins internally. You are learning to be still even when thoughts swirl, to pause before reacting, to speak peace into chaos. This is not passivity, it is mastery. When your mind bows to peace instead of panic, heaven calls that victory. There's something sacred about reclaiming your thoughts. It's like rebuilding an altar brick by brick. Each positive declaration becomes a stone of stability. Each rejection of fear becomes a flame of faith. Over time, you realize that the war you feared wasn't endless, it was educational. Heaven used it to teach you how to wield scripture like a sword and silence like a shield. There will still be days when old thoughts try to revisit memories of shame, words spoken against you, doubts disguised as logic. When they do, remember you are no longer their home. You can acknowledge their presence without granting them permission to stay. Let the storm pass without inviting it to sit. Beloved, your peace is your proof of power. You will know you are winning this war not when battles stop, but when they no longer break you. When anxiety knocks and you no longer answer. When fear speaks and you simply smile. Knowing truth already occupies that space. That is what maturity looks like in the spirit. The battlefield of the mind is where heaven crowns overcomers. Victory here doesn't shout, it rests. You won't always feel triumphant, but every moment you refuse to surrender your joy, you are winning unseen wars. Remember, too, that grace walks this path with you. You don't fight alone. The spirit within you is not a passive observer, it's an active ally, whispering truth when you forget it. Every time you feel strength returning after a breakdown. That's not coincidence, that's the Comforter doing his work. One day soon, you'll notice how quiet the battlefield has become. The noise will still exist, but it won't own you. Peace will fill the space where chaos used to camp. You'll look back and realize that what once felt like endless conflict was actually spiritual conditioning training you to rule your inner world so you could influence the outer one. Chosen one, guard your thoughts with vigilance but not fear. You are not fragile, you are fortified. The same mind that once housed torment is now becoming a temple. Each time you choose peace over panic, you invite heaven to reign a little more in you. The war was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to discipline you. Now breathe. The battle is still, but you are stronger. The mind that once trembled is learning to trust. You are not a captive of confusion. You are a keeper of clarity. Heaven fought beside you so that your mind could finally rest in divine stillness. The victory has already been written, it's simply being revealed. One peaceful thought at a time. Chosen one, there is a sacred place where purpose meets pain. The crossroads of the crown and the cross. You have stood there more times than you realize. It's that invisible intersection where your calling demands surrender, where the glory you're promised requires the sacrifice you never expected. Every chosen soul must walk this narrow path. It is the bridge between preparation and power. The cross represents surrender. The crown represents fulfillment. One cannot exist without the other. You have carried your cross in silence, often misunderstood, often alone. People saw your strength but not your struggle. They admired your peace but never knew the price it cost you to keep it. Yet heaven has seen it all. Every silent tear, every private battle. Every time you wanted to give up but didn't, all of it was recorded in eternity's memory. The path you're walking is not evidence of God's distance but of his trust. The greater the glory, the greater the pressing. Olive oil doesn't flow until the fruit is crushed. Gold isn't purified until it faces fire. Likewise, your calling isn't crowned until your will is laid down. The process you've endured was never punishment. It was proof that heaven deemed you ready to carry weight others could not bear. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 12. If we suffer with him, we shall also reign with him. These words are not poetic, they are prophetic. To suffer with him is to understand the heart of divine love, to partner with heaven's redemptive rhythm. To reign with him is the promised reward authority forged through endurance. You were never called to easy victories, but to eternal significance. Sometimes, your cross isn't a single event, it's a season. It's the daily choosing of grace when bitterness would be easier. It's forgiving when you'd rather forget. It's blessing those who betrayed you and trusting again after heartbreak. Every act of surrender carves a deeper capacity within you for divine authority. The crown cannot rest on a proud head. It sits only upon the humble. Chosen one, you have walked through storms that stripped away every illusion of control. Yet in losing what you thought defined you, you found what cannot be taken, your faith. It's not the loud kind that demands attention, it's the quiet, steady kind that refuses to die. That faith is heaven's favorite fragrance. It has drawn angels to your side when you felt alone, and it has whispered prayers on your behalf when you had no words left to speak. The crown you are approaching is not one of earthly recognition. It's not applause, fame, or status. It's the inward peace that nothing and no one can counterfeit. It's walking in rooms that once intimidated you and knowing you belong because God sent you. It's carrying wisdom where others carry wounds. It's being light in places where darkness once claimed dominion. Do not despise your scars. They are the markings of victory. The crown doesn't hide the wounds, it rests upon them. Every scar is a seal of authenticity, proof that you've touched both suffering and survival and still chosen to believe. The heavens celebrate such courage. Angels know your name not because of your power, but because of your perseverance. Beloved, the cross has shaped you into someone who cannot be shaken. You've been misunderstood, but now you understand others better. You've been rejected, but now you radiate compassion. You've lost, but now you value deeply. Everything the cross took from you, the crown will restore in multiplied form. What once drained you will now draw from you the purest light. In the days ahead, you will feel the weight of the cross begin to lighten. The season of pressing is reaching completion. You will sense a shift not sudden, but steady as heaven exchanges your sorrow for strategy, your pain for purpose. The lessons etched by tears are becoming maps for others. Your wounds are turning into wisdom. Soon, others will come to you seeking guidance, unaware that the oil flowing from your life came from the crushing. You will not boast about your endurance, you will testify about his faithfulness. For every cross carried in obedience becomes a throne of influence in time. The authority you carry will not come from charisma, but from compassion, the kind only born in those who've bled for what they believe. Chosen one, do not fear the cost anymore. The cross you carried has already purchased your next season. You've paid the price in prayer, in patience, in perseverance. Heaven is now preparing to crown what it once crushed. The same hand that allowed the breaking will now place the blessing. The same voice that called you into the storm will now say, "Peace, be still." Walk forward knowing this truth: your suffering has not been wasted. The crown is near, and it will fit perfectly, not because of how high you've risen, but because of how low you've bowed. Chosen one, heaven is calling forth the marked ones, the ones who remained faithful when no one was watching, the ones who didn't run when the storm came, who held on through nights of silence, who loved when it would have been easier to close their hearts. You are among them. You are one of heaven's quiet warriors, refined by fire yet still shining. This is your rising. There is a holy unveiling happening now. Heaven is pulling back the curtain on those who've been hidden, those who have been shaped in secret places. You've been a seed buried beneath the soil, unseen but never forgotten. The darkness around you wasn't death, it was incubation. The season of obscurity was never punishment, it was preparation. Now the ground above you begins to break. The light is searching for you. The light that searches for you does not rush. It recognizes divine timing. The soil cracks softly, not violently, because heaven values formation more than performance. You are emerging exactly when the world needs your sound, your kindness, your strength. Nothing about your unveiling is random, it's a heavenly appointment. And as you rise, remember that new light can startle unprepared eyes. Move with gentleness. Let humility be your fragrance and compassion your language. You were not hidden to become proud. You were hidden to become pure. Shine steadily, so those still in darkness can find their way home through your glow. The prophet Isaiah once proclaimed in chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This is not just poetic, it is prophetic. Heaven is not suggesting, it is commanding. The time for hiding is over. The light you carry is needed, and the world is darker than it's ever been. What you've learned in private is meant to be poured out in public. You may not feel ready. Most who are chosen never do. But readiness is not measured by perfection, it's measured by surrender. You have already proven your heart faithful. Now heaven will prove your influence visible. The rising of the marked ones is not about fame or applause, it's about impact. You are being placed strategically, not spotlighted accidentally. Every position, every conversation, every divine connection is part of heaven's chessboard of purpose. This moment, this message, is more than sound, it's a summons. Heaven is activating your visibility. The very same grace that sustained you in silence will now sustain you in the spotlight. Do not shrink back out of fear or false humility. The light doesn't boast when it shines, it simply obeys the purpose for which it was created. You've noticed the shift already. People are beginning to notice your presence differently. Opportunities that once ignored you are now searching for you. That's not coincidence, it's timing. The fragrance of obedience attracts the favor of God. When heaven determines it's your season, nothing can stop your unveiling. But understand this rising comes with responsibility. You cannot shine and stay silent. You cannot carry divine fire and keep it contained. You are being raised as a torchbearer, and your flame is meant to ignite others. Every word you speak, every act of compassion, every expression of grace is a spark that lights the way for someone still wandering. Beloved, this space, the voice you're hearing, the words you're reading is part of that torch. It's a collective flame meant to gather the marked ones from every corner of the earth. If this message has reached you, if it has strengthened, comforted, or stirred something divine within you, then help keep this flame alive. Like this message as an act of witness, not as a simple gesture, but as a spark of agreement, your way of saying, yes, this light found me. Share it as a form of stewardship. Somewhere out there, another soul is still sitting in silence, unaware that heaven is calling their name. Your share might be the bridge between their despair and their awakening. Subscribe to stay connected to the flow of these prophetic moments. Think of it not as joining a channel, but as joining a movement, a gathering of chosen ones being raised at the same hour. We are not building an audience, we are building an army of light. And if gratitude moves within you, if you feel led, consider donating. Think of it as watering the field that once watered you. Every offering, no matter how small, becomes a drop of oil keeping this flame burning. You're not funding a message, you're fueling a mission. Together, we make sure the words that reached you tonight will keep reaching others who need them tomorrow. You can even leave a comment below your own testimony, your reflection, your amen. Words have power. Yours may be the one that encourages another heart. The comment section isn't just a digital space, it's an altar of agreement, a gathering of faith where chosen ones meet across borders. Remember, chosen one. Rising is not about becoming someone new, it's about becoming visible as who you've always been. Heaven never hides light forever. The same God who whispered to you in the dark now speaks through you in the dawn. Walk into this season with reverence and courage. Shine, not to be seen, but to reveal. Love, not to be praised, but to heal. Give, not to gain, but to glorify. For when marked ones rise, the world remembers that light always wins. Chosen one, the appointed hour draws near. You can almost feel it, the subtle tightening of time, the invisible anticipation hanging in the air. Heaven has whispered all month, and now the moment it spoke of is unfolding before your eyes. You have heard the instructions, felt the call, endured the preparation. Now comes the fulfillment. This is the hour when faith becomes sight. The number may be simple 9 p.m., but in heaven's timing, it represents much more than the end of a day. It is the culmination of obedience, the point where human will and divine will meet. All month long, heaven has been orchestrating this moment with precision, aligning hearts, rearranging circumstances, softening what was hard and awakening what was asleep. Nothing about this night is ordinary. It is a hinge in time, a divine appointment that cannot be postponed. You may not hear thunder or see flashes of light when it comes. Sometimes heaven moves quietly, like dawn spreading across the horizon, subtle yet unstoppable. The shift will happen not in noise, but in knowing. You will feel it in your spirit first, a peace that replaces pressure, a sense of completion where confusion used to dwell. Heaven's confirmation often arrives as calm. This is the hour of activation. Everything you have prayed for, waited for, prepared for begins to converge. What you thought was delayed was simply being synchronized. Every prayer you whispered in tears has been building toward this convergence. The gates of fulfillment are opening because you have stayed faithful to the instruction. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 45, "Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her." Those words were first spoken to Mary, but they echo to every believing heart across generations. Faith is not merely hope, it is the bridge between promise and manifestation. You are crossing that bridge tonight. Every test you faced this year has been a rehearsal for this hour. The emotional turbulence, the unexpected delays, the long nights of silence, they were all training your heart to recognize the rhythm of heaven. You've learned to wait, not passively, but watchfully. You've discovered that obedience is not a single act, but a lifestyle. Now, all that obedience gathers its reward. At this 9 p.m. threshold, the unseen becomes seen. Promises begin to breathe. What was only prophecy becomes tangible. It may begin as small confirmations, a message that arrives at the right moment, a door that opens without effort, an opportunity that perfectly fits the shape of your preparation. These are signs of fulfillment. Chosen one. Heaven's order always includes divine timing. Had things come earlier, they would have collapsed under the weight of immaturity. But now, you are steady enough to steward the blessing. Your heart has been refined through pressure. Your discernment has been sharpened through waiting. The gift about to arrive won't destroy you, it will establish you. You might feel an unusual quietness as the hour approaches. That silence isn't emptiness, it's expectancy. All of heaven holds its breath when fulfillment nears. Angels move into position. Spiritual doors creak open, and divine instructions flow like gentle wind. Listen carefully. The guidance that follows this fulfillment will shape your next season. What happens at this appointed hour will not just affect you. It will ripple through those connected to your obedience. The blessing that falls on you will overflow to others. Every act of faith creates a chain reaction. The obedience of one chosen one becomes the breakthrough for many. And though the clock measures minutes, heaven measures readiness. When your heart aligns with divine timing, seconds can become eternity. You don't have to chase this moment, it's already finding you. The very air seems to hum with alignment. Do not expect everything to look different instantly. Divine fulfillment often begins subtly, like a seed finally sprouting through the soil. The miracle may start small, but its roots are already deep. You will notice the shift first in your spirit, peace instead of panic, confidence instead of confusion. That's how heaven announces that the appointed time has arrived. Chosen one. What you're stepping into is not coincidence, it's culmination. The pieces of your story are converging, forming the picture God always intended. The nights of uncertainty, the tears of surrender, the whispers of hope they were never wasted. Every moment has been leading here. And when the clock strikes this hour, don't rush to act or speak. Simply be still. Let the moment breathe. Feel heaven's alignment settling over you like a warm mantle. You will know without question that something eternal has shifted. Tonight, 9 p.m. is more than an hour. It is a threshold. When you cross it, you step from waiting into walking, from hoping into having, from believing into becoming. Heaven's word is not delayed. It is delivered. So rest your spirit, steady your breath, and receive what has already been written. You are standing in divine fulfillment, and all of heaven bears witness. The gates are open. The time is now. Chosen one. The final seal draws near. The hour has passed, and something invisible yet undeniable has settled in the atmosphere around you. You may not fully comprehend it, but your spirit already knows heaven has shifted something on your behalf. What was heavy now feels lighter. What once felt far now feels near. The stillness following this divine hour is not emptiness, it is completion. The Spirit of God does not always announce endings with fanfare. Sometimes, heaven closes a season with quietness, like a curtain falling after a sacred performance. The silence is holy. It means heaven has spoken, and nothing more needs to be said. You have obeyed the instruction, aligned with the timing, and positioned yourself under divine order. This peace you feel is heaven's signature, its seal of approval. Every journey that begins in faith must end in fulfillment. And tonight, fulfillment has found you. The promises you've been carrying have crossed from words into reality. Even if your eyes haven't seen it yet, your spirit has already stepped into possession. There is a peace that comes when heaven finishes what it started, and that peace is the proof that you are now walking in answered prayer. Heaven always honors obedience. The act of listening when others ignore, the quiet surrender when logic argues back, the courage to believe even after disappointment, all of it becomes incense before the throne. You have chosen faith over fear, trust over timing, surrender over control, and heaven never forgets those choices. They are recorded in divine memory, written not in ink, but in light. The prophet Isaiah once wrote in chapter 26, verse 3, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." That peace is what now guards your heart. It is not fragile nor fleeting. It is fortified by faith. It will remain even when storms arise again, because once peace comes from heaven, no power of darkness can revoke it. This peace is more than comfort, it is confirmation. It tells you that the spiritual transaction is complete. The prayers you prayed have been answered, even if the evidence has yet to appear in the natural realm. Faith always manifests inwardly before it unfolds outwardly. That quiet knowing inside you is heaven's way of saying, "It is done." Chosen one, you have crossed the threshold. What once felt like striving has now become surrender. You are no longer chasing destiny, you are walking in it. The season of proving has ended, and the season of presence has begun. The tension that surrounded your heart for months will now give way to a deep awareness of divine companionship. Heaven is not merely above you, it is within you, moving through every step you take. Do not rush away from this stillness. Sit in it. Let it sink into every fiber of your being. The peace you feel now is not temporary relief. It is a permanent shift. It is heaven's way of marking you as one who listened, one who obeyed, one who crossed the hour of fulfillment. You are no longer the same as you were before this night. From this point forward, you will notice that grace operates differently around you. Doors will open with less effort. Conversations will flow with divine timing, and your discernment will sharpen without striving. That's what happens when heaven seals a chosen life. Ease begins to replace struggle. Even your surroundings will begin to mirror the change within. People will sense something different when they're near you, not just energy, but authority. You've been given the quiet confidence that comes only after obedience. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. You now carry peace as proof. Beloved, understand this truth: the greatest miracles are often invisible at first. When Jesus calmed the storm, the first thing that changed was not the sea, but the silence within the boat. Peace always precedes transformation. The same pattern unfolds in you now. Heaven has calmed your internal storm so your external world can follow suit. In the coming days, you will see confirmation appear, subtly small but precise signs that heaven has completed its work. Words of affirmation spoken through strangers. Unexpected ease in places that once resisted you. Sudden clarity in situations that once confused you. These are all signs of the seal, the mark of completion upon your life. Chosen one, rest. The striving is over. Heaven has not only heard you, it has answered. This peace you now feel is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of your next chapter. The scroll continues, but the foundation has been laid. You have stepped into divine rhythm, where every heartbeat echoes heaven's timing. Hold on to this moment as a sacred memory. Let the peace of God guard you, guide you, and ground you. You are covered, sealed, and sustained. Heaven has spoken over you one final decree: it is finished, and it is fulfilled. Beloved chosen one, take a deep breath and look at how far you've come. From the first whisper to this final moment, heaven has walked you through valleys, lifted you over waters, and brought you to the edge of new beginning. You are not the same as when you began. Something in you has shifted. Your faith feels steadier, your spirit lighter, your vision clearer. This is the still point between chapters, the holy pause before the next page turns. The peace that surrounds you now is heaven's confirmation that your journey has not been in vain. Every word you've read, every prayer you whispered while reading, has left an imprint upon your destiny. You have been seen, heard, and sealed. If this message has touched your heart, if even one line reminded you that you are chosen, then let your gratitude speak. Like this message, not as a habit, but as a small offering of light, a signal that the word found you. Share it. For someone else is standing where you once stood, searching for the same clarity that has now reached you. Your act may be the bridge heaven uses to guide another home. Comment below what this journey has stirred in you. Maybe it's a word, a phrase, or a silent amen. Each comment becomes a ripple in this growing river of faith, a testimony written in real time. And if your heart longs to stay aligned with these moments of divine insight, subscribe and remain connected. Together, we continue walking the path heaven reveals, one message, one heartbeat, one act of faith at a time. Chosen one, your story has only begun. Walk forward in peace, shine with purpose, and remember, heaven always finishes what it starts.